Varsågoda mina herrar.
Tak. Tak skal du have. Tak fordi så mange er dukket op. Vi vil holde det her indlæg på engelsk. Det håber jeg er okay. My name is Ole Tastrup. I'm CEO of 2cureX. With me I have Martin van der Linden, who is our business officer. 2cureX is in a really exciting phase. We will show you how we are in the process of commercializing our main product, IndiTreat, in 2020. IndiTreat is not a drug. I'm stating this clearly because IndiTreat is a test, as you can see here. What we want to use this test for is to establish it as a global standard for individualizing cancer treatment. And what we do is that we, by functionally matching the individual cancer patient with an effective drug treatment. So immediately after this test has been conducted, the patient will put on treatment. Now, let me show you a quote that is very close to our heart and actually does reflect the situation that we are in when we talk to clinicians and to cancer institutions. It's from Steve Jobs. And what he said was, get closer than ever to your customers. So close that you tell them what they need well before they realize it themselves. This is actually how we interact with, as said, clinical cancer institutions, oncologists, and patients. They are aware that we have a severe problem in first identifying the treatment that fits with the individual patient, but also identifying those that will not work in the patient, so the patient are resistant for. When we then say to them, well, you know what the problem is, we have a solution, they get surprised, and that's where IndiTreat comes in. If you should remember anything from this talk, here are the take-home messages. IndiTreat is the first functional test that is ready for clinical practice. We are on track for marketing IndiTreat in 2020. And IndiTreat is in a very attractive, competitive position. And latest, at the end, want to tell you that we are well funded for this success. Now, there's a number of components that needs to be in place for this to occur. And here you have them listed, and we will simply go through each of them and convince you that we are on track for this commercialization next year. Let me take the first one. There need to be broad clinical evidence for this test for clinicians to use it. Now, this is a slide that some of you may have seen before, namely, what is this test all about? On this panel, you will see at the top a very small, what we call tumoroid. This is a small fraction of a tumor from the individual patient. The size of this guy out to the left is about 50 microns. So if you take sort of a needle, there will be about 50 of these tumoroids at the end. They are very small, and they are full copies of the tumor in the patient. What we do then is that we allow this guy to grow, and you will see how it normally goes. Within a week or a week and a half, it will grow to that size. And then we treat these hundreds to thousands of tumoroids with different treatments. And in essence, we will avoid treatment A. This is a treatment to which the patient is resistant. The patient will only experience side effects. With all these treatments, there are severe side effects. We should avoid giving the patient that treatment. And in the bottom, you will see that treatment works. It not only inhibits the growth, it completely deteriorates the tumor. We can do this with both mono and combination therapies. And these tumoroids that we do not test, we put in a minus 150 degrees freezer. So we sort of have a copy of the patient's tumor forever. If new treatments appear, we will rescreen, or if the disease progresses, we can go in and test again. Sorry. Here you will see such a tumoroid. And the only thing you should see at this picture is that it is very complex. So we are actually having all the components that is in such tumor, we can replicate that. And we maintain the interaction between these cancer cells and the environment. Let me show you a real patient. Here's a patient with colorectal cancer in the metastatic stage. So a patient in a very difficult situation. We had to screen 13 different treatments before we found one that worked. And I should say, the first part of these treatments, that's standard treatments. None of them worked in this patient. And the green TAS 102, that is a combination of two drugs that worked. The patient was treated, and at the scanning, the first scanning, the patient was doing very well. So this is just the situation that we are standing in every time we see a patient. There is so many of these treatments that does not work. We need to scan in a huge panel to find the one that works. And this is one of our principal investigators in colorectal cancer. His study have now reached the first milestone, namely, sort of, are we going to continue? And there we met both the primary and the secondary endpoint. We are not only in colorectal cancer. As I said at the beginning, we need to show that this technology is broadly applicable. And what you will see here is a panel of studies we're doing in 3 major cancers. We will see studies coming, adding to this palette sort of all the time. We are getting a lot of contacts from hospitals and clinicians say, couldn't you do this specific patient group, this panel of drugs? And then we will see whether it makes sense for us, and we may run it. Continuously, we will see clinical evidence coming up in these different panels. I will show you how our core technologies, namely the test, the biobank, and a huge depository of data. We have so many patients in our database, so our clinicians will not only get the data on their patient, they will get it compared to a panel of patients, which is very important. And this is just presented in a different way. We have a lot of knowledge of what should we screen for. Now, the physicians come to us and say, well, my patient has pancreas cancer. What do you suggest we screen for? In the beginning, they told us what we should screen for. Now, we say, well, our experience is this panel makes sense for your patient, and then we will test it. Now I will give it to you, Martin.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I won't. Sorry.
This one is still yours.
Yeah, well, there you go. No, I'll take the competition. So this is very important for us to show that not only have we found a place in what we call the cancer toolbox, we also have it well protected. And we want to present the toolbox, sort of what is available for the clinician when a patient comes in. A number of technologies will be used. And here you just see a panel of them: genomics, scanning, biochemistry, pathology, and patient history. All patients go through that. What they are missing is a functional test. I have just come from the largest cancer conference in Europe called ESMO, European Society of Medical Oncology in Barcelona, 22,000 participants. There was a very clear message. We need to find tools that can tell us which drugs works and which do not. That is what IndiTreat provides. And the existing tools does not. So we are actually a first in class to provide such a functional tool in that cancer toolbox. Is it protected? Yes. These are the places where we have issued patents. We have further pending patents, and we are covering Europe, the States, Canada, Australia, India, and actually some other places in Asia. So it's very well protected. What is important, however, is to tell you that 2cureX did not invent 3D microtumors. There is a lot of evidence from academic groups out there that this is a very important way of finding out how a patient responds. What we have done is we have made it clinically applicable. And then, Martin, I will give it to you.
Yes, thank you. So my name is Maarten van der Linden, and as Ole said, I am the commercial officer for 2cureX. And I would like to take you through some slides where we tell a little bit more about the ambition that we have and how the preparation to get the sales revenue that we think we can get, how that is going. So first of all, as Ole said, we are in 3 different cancer areas. The far biggest area that we want to enter with IndiTreat is colorectal cancer. This is for both men and women one of the largest cancers and where there is a large unmet medical need for a test that can determine if there is treatment resistance or treatment sensitivity. The second one is ovarian cancer, and this is very often referred to as the silent killer. For women, this is the most deadly female cancer, and also a cancer that is often identified very late, where there is a lot of need for the right treatment right away. So there is lots of interest for a test like IndiTreat in this area. The third one, and this is pancreatic cancer. This is by far the worst cancer, basically. This is a very severe situation, also often diagnosed very late, where also there is a huge need in finding out which treatment will make most sense for patients. So these are the 3 major areas where we want to operate. And is that an attractive market to be in? And yes, that is a very large market, and what you see here on the slide is that we estimate that annually there are in these 3 cancer areas around 377,000 patients eligible for a test like IndiTreat. And what do I mean by that? That is actually situations where a physician already has tried maybe something and it's not working and is thinking, what now? So what other treatment do I need to give these patients? So this is the number 377,000. And so the total available market is around 11 billion Swedish kroner. So this is a huge market to be in. And do we stop here? No. We also have some new opportunities. These are later in the, let's say, development of 2cureX, but we also look at the preventive cancer medicine. What is preventive cancer medicine? Well, that is basically a patient goes in for a colonoscopy and there is let's say, a lesion that looks not so good, and the patient, so that will be taken out, and then we can analyze, that can be then analyzed for, is this cancer, yes or no? And here there is a huge interest from the European Union to develop projects that are into cancer prevention, and 2cureX comes in, and maybe Ole can say a little bit more about that later. This area is around 500,000 or more than 500,000 patients annually. The last part is patient stratification, and that is collaboration with pharma companies, and we have issued a press release that we are in such a project with a pharma company called Gibson Oncology, and that is that you stratify the patient for a clinical trial. Basically, you measure the sensitivity of patients to a specific drug so that you can do a clinical trial with patients where you know that they will react on the drug. So that is, for pharmaceutical industries, a very interesting area to look into. So will this go as a smooth ride from now to launch? I hope so, but it is a lot of work. To launch IndiTreat is a huge undertaking, and this is not something that we do alone. We have partners, professional partners, that help us in managing all the different aspects of a launch process. And to give you an idea, this is a, let's say, a launch excellence framework with all the different elements that you need to have in place. And we really know that success depends on a very detailed launch readiness planning. And how does that look so far? Well, For the first half of 2019, we said that we want to make sure that our logistics, our test management, and our data processing internally in 2cureX, that is in place. And we have done that. So the organization we're building on the organization, we're adding the right resources to it. So we can really say for commercial readiness, we're on track. Where does that bring us to in the second half of 2019? And that is pre-launching. We want to test our test already now for real, with real patients in real customer settings. And we have identified our launch sites, and we are actually in negotiation with them to make sure that we can sign them on for a early access agreement so that we can start with that. So we really have this also in place. And we are working on the medical and commercial strategy development, as you saw in the previous slide, and also we working with very, very innovative oncologists that we want to develop to early adopters of IndiTreat that we also can use later. So where does it bring us for next year? That will be preparation of the launch and also making sure that we have our launch sites in place. And that is something that we are, of course, working on onwards. So definitely on track for the launch preparation. And the last slide I will give to Ole.
Thanks. And I should say that Martin and his team have plowed Europe, so the numbers that Martin presented was for Europe. Obviously, there are markets outside in next phase. But do we have the organization? We will argue yes. Here you have the management team that is covering all the competences that we need from our chief medical officer, the Martin you have met, financials, operations, Grit Hagel, and we have a subsidiary in Hamburg that is managed by Jürgen Cooper. Germany is very close to our heart. One of our 3 founders is German and is living in Hamburg, so that gives us a lot of good contacts into the clinical environment and biotech environment for that matter in Germany. And here you have the board where we are covering also the MedTech. Camilla is a highly experienced person within marketing, within product placement in the MedTech world. Jürgen Dreyer, that some of you may know, is a drug discovery person and is CEO of Saniona. We have partners that have not been mentioned before. We have a number of hospitals, and that circle will increase very much over the next months. But another very important aspect that we haven't spent time on is the patient organization. We have very close interactions with the Danish Kræftens Bekæmpelse, the Danish Cancer Society, with KIU, that is gynecological cancers, ovarian cancer, and those 3 leaves, that's the patient organization for pancreatic cancer, and we have a relationship or a partnership with Digestive Cancers Europe, that is a pan-European patient organization. Patients will get a lot of importance in the future, not only in deciding the actual treatments, but also in being involved in making protocols, so that's very important. And then we have a number of academic partners. So this is the final slide, and I hope that these headlines will not be a surprise to you, that the IndiTreat is actually in a space where there really is an unmet medical need for predicting resistance and efficacy. We have ongoing pre-launch activities that makes us ready for marketing in 2020. It's clinically validated. We have CE-IVD registration in place. And we have a number of partner hospitals in Denmark, Germany, the UK, and we are adding other countries in the near future. Active collaborations with patient organizations. We have a strong financial base and a patent protection that can move us all the way to the market. And at the end, as Martin alluded to, we also have opportunities that go beyond the I guess that was it. We have opportunities that go beyond the IndiTreat that is being marketed here next year. And with that, I will thank you for your attention.
Tack för det. Spännande, eller hur? Bolag som har kommit en bra bit och som har gjort mycket av det som de tidigare har sagt att de skulle göra. Imponerande.
Tack.
Tack för en trevlig presentation.
Tack.
Trots detta så är det säkert så att det finns en och annan som vill passa på att ställa en fråga till herrarna här uppe. Ja, ett ögonblick så ska du få en mikrofon.
Interesting to have a pretty soon answer. Now, I noticed that your time scale was 11 days. Are there no cancer cells which takes a much longer time for development, which would expand this quite recently?
Can you repeat the question, Olle?
Okay. The question is whether these 11 days that we presented there is an issue, in essence. For the physician. And the clear answer is no. Actually, very rarely will a treatment be started before 2 to 3 weeks after there's been that consultation. And in some patients, it will actually take longer. If there has been a surgical intervention, they will not start treatment until 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. So 11 days is not a problem at all.
Okay. Tack för det svaret. Har vi ytterligare frågor från någon här? Medtävlare, konkurrens, finns det överhuvudtaget någon som gör det som ni sysslar med, eller är ni helt unika?
Obviously, we think we are unique, but no, there are competition. And I've said that also previously. Most of the competition is coming from academic institutions. Now, we actually have a slide, maybe we jumped that, but where we showed that Harvard Medical School and Arbor Cancer Institute, which is one of the most prominent cancer institutions in the world, they say that functional assays will be extremely important in the future. And there are these studies done at academic institutions. There is a couple of companies. There's one in the US, there's one in India, that is doing this type of screening. We do not have competitors here in the Nordics, and in Europe there's one company in Berlin that we interact with. But I would say by far the most of the competition is coming from academia. And again, it is not making the 3D cultures we are claiming and have protection for us being able to run it all the way through the clinical practice. And there's absolutely none.
Tack för det svaret. Vi har en avslutande fråga här, varsågod.
How will you manage to cope with all the 10,000s of tests that will be needed to take place? Who are going to do them? And then secondly, connected to that, how will you get paid? How does your business model look like?
Short answer, Olle.
Okay. With regard to scale up, all the tests will be done in screening facilities of 2cureX. And today we have 3 screening facilities, one in Denmark, one in Germany, one in the UK. And they are able to scale up significantly. We will also have screening units in some of the other European countries. And with regard to the payment, you are the guy that...
Yes, so we have a price per test principle, which is not unique for tests like this. If you look at next-gen sequencing, DNA mapping, whole genome sequencing, that is also a price per test. So the way it works is a partner hospital will get a contract and where we estimate the number of tests that will be done, and then you do a price per test principle. So we invoice a clinical center, and we can do that direct or through a partner. There are commercial laboratories around Europe that deliver service, and where we could, for example, use their infrastructure for the invoicing and the financial modeling. So,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
thank you.
Tack